One thing I like about the Apple AirPods Max is that they are so well built and do not fall apart easily. So when I saw this pristine looking pair of AirPods Max being sold online for parts, I purchased them to find out if I could get them fixed. My package arrived and I went ahead to unbox them. The box contained the AirPods Max and the smart charging case. I begin with connecting a charging cable and pressing down on the noise control button to see if it is charging. No light shows up on the indicator, so I give it some time to charge. After several hours of charging, I attempt a factory reset, but there is still no sign of power from the device. Next, I take off the headbands using a SIM card eject pin and proceed to clean the headband connectors with a brush and some isopropyl alcohol. I also clean inside the ear cups with a pair of tweezers and some cotton wool dipped in some isopropyl alcohol. When done, I put them back together and check for any sign of power. I still receive no sign of power from this pair of AirPods Max. Next, I use a working pair of AirPods Max to isolate the problem. I switch the ear cups and test them out. The left ear cup and the headband proved to be fully functional, so the problem appears to be from the right ear cup. The right ear cup contains the battery and the main board, and I intend to use a functional pair to test if these parts are working. Each ear cup has 4 screws that need to be unscrewed when opening the ear cups. The lower right and top left screws open anti-clockwise, while the bottom left and top right screws open clockwise, all at a single 90-degree twist. The ear cups have some glue that hold the inner cover in place, and I use a thin plastic sheet to go between the tight boundary and separate the glue holding the inner plastic cover to the metal exterior. This step requires some patience and a bit of determination. I opted out of using a heat source to melt the glue simply for safety reasons. I gently lift the inner cover, and I use a T2 bit to unscrew the flex cable attaching it to the board. I use a pair of tweezers to lift and remove the metal covering before releasing the connector. When carrying this out, be careful with the speaker driver, as it is really sensitive to touch and can easily be pressed in if not handled carefully. Next, I unscrew and take off the speaker driver. It is held down by 4 screws. Three of the screws require a T3 bit, while the last screw can be unscrewed using a device with a flat end like this spatula if you don't have the specialized bit for the screw. Once the screws are taken off, the speaker driver can be lifted up and placed to the side. Next, I take off the screws holding down the battery bracket. I remove the metal plate with a pair of tweezers. And lift up the connector. This single screw in the corner holding down the battery requires a T5 screw bit, which I use to unscrew it and take it off. The battery extends to the opposite side of the air cup, and it is held down by 3 screws, 2 of which require a T2 screw bit, and the third screw in the corner requires a T5 screw bit. I lift and remove the battery pack from the air cup. Next, I take off the main board. I begin with a T2 screw bit to take off these 2 screws. And I disconnect these 2 charging port connectors and a third connector to the side of the board. The board is held down by 2 screws that require a T3 screw bit. I can now take out the board and disconnect this connector from the board. At this point, I decided to switch the battery and the board with the known working pair and tested them out to see if that would fix the power problem. The indicator light still did not come on when the charging cable was connected and the noise control button was pressed. So, as a final resort, I decided to switch out the charging port with the known working one. The charging port is held in place by 4 screws, which require a T2 screw bit. Taking off the screws requires some patience to align the screwdriver correctly when unscrewing the screws. I finally take off the charging port and I have it replaced with the known working one. I replaced the main board and the batteries and I proceed to test them out once more. The charging port turned out to be the faulty part of the AirPods, since it is working perfectly now. It is important to have a system to keep track of the screws and each part taken out of the AirPods. I found using this magnetic mat a useful way to keep all my screws and parts organized. I take some time to replace all the parts I had taken out. I proceed to test out the AirPods and they seamlessly connect to my device. And I take some time to test out all the functions, including the noise cancellation and the proximity sensors. And everything is working perfectly. Some useful points to consider when carrying out this repair include: be careful to replace all the connectors that were taken off during the disassembly, or the AirPods will not function as intended. It is important to be gentle and not force off or force on any of the connectors to avoid damaging the pins. This repair requires a good amount of time, so if you're doing it for the first time, do plan ahead and set aside enough time to get it done. I hope you found this video helpful and insightful. If you have any questions, kindly leave them in the comments. Thank you for watching and do have a blessed and excellent day. Bye for now.